Hello and welcome to the Curriculus. Today we are in Age of Mythology Retold, once again doing another guide video. Yes, we are talking about the Greeks. Today's video is going to be none other than Hades himself. Perhaps the strongest Greek of all. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with that. Also, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. First of all, he focuses on ranged soldiers and buildings. You also have a 20% chance of fallen humans to return as shades, which is an additional unit that you can use in your army. Myth units also have an additional 15% hit points. And ranged units and buildings also have that extra range, which in my opinion actually is really helpful. So let's go over and talk about your first starting powers. Now, the first one we need to talk about, of course, is Sentinels. Sentinels make it incredibly difficult for anyone to early rush Hades. Now, if you've ever played multiplayer, you will know that the early rush is the meta. Having the Sentinels is essentially having 4 extra towers that are ready to fire from the get-go, and that can stack as well. In other words, you can have multiple Sentinels down early game, and it's really hard to kill that. Now, of course, you get 1 for free, and then you're going to have to get some favor in order to get another one up and running, but it really isn't that hard to get maybe 2 or 3 of these down before you hit age 3. Really handy to use, and like I said, they do stack as well, which is, in my opinion, something that's really cool. You can also put these on every single town center you own, as well as your allied town centers as well. So if you're ever doing like 2v2, for instance, on ranked, you can also help boost up your allies. Again, something that I think is really useful. You also get an ability where you get a little trickle of extra gold coming into you, which I think is really handy. Anything that gives you more resources, especially something like this, which is passive, is really bloody helpful. Now, once we've researched age 2, we have the ability to pick Athena. Athena is a really cool, interesting god to pick. You have Restoration, which is essentially an area of effect, and it will heal and repair buildings. It also heal and repair troops as well. So again, getting into those early battles, it's really helpful. You also get a myth unit, which is a Minotaur, which is a really strong early myth unit. Actually, the Minotaur is a really cool guy. I use him more often than not. You also get the ability to buff him up as well, which is also quite handy. You also get the ability to buff up some infantry units too. But of course, if you don't like Athena, you could also pick Ares. Now, Ares has the ability to stop the enemy's towers and defensive buildings actually attacking, which is really interesting. If you're going to do that early rush, this can really help stop those arrows from attacking you. Alternatively, you will be getting Cyclops this time, which is the myth unit. Both the Minotaur and the Cyclops are both very good. They both have their weaknesses and their strengths. In my opinion, I prefer the Minotaurs, but the Cyclops are also very good options. We also have the ability to buff several different infantry units too. Once we hit age 3, we can pick Apollo. Apollo comes with the Underworld passage. Essentially, you can create A to B passages. We'll show you this in the video in which your troops can pop on through. The Manticore is the myth unit we unlock there, which is a very powerful ranged unit. Personally, I like it a lot. Spamming these can be very strong. And of course, all ranged units are really good because anyone that can have a flying unit, you're going to need defense against that. And those ranged units, like the Manticore, can take out things like the Phoenix rather easily. But if Apollo doesn't float your boat, maybe Aphrodite's does. Now, she has Curse. She can essentially turn an army into pigs. You know, farmable, harvestable pigs, which I think is kind of cool. You also get a myth unit, which is a lion. I'm not a huge fan of this personally, but it does have its uses if Aphrodite's is the way you go. Now, you also do have the golden apple, which provides a boost to your villagers, as well as divine blood, which will significantly boost your villagers as well. Aphrodite's really is a cool go. I really love Curse. I think that using it defensively when an army's attacking you can be really, really powerful. And yep, even in C, you get a hero unit there. Jason and Argonauts, if you ever seen that. It's a really cool little bow. It's reinforced and worth grabbing. However, up in Age 4, we do get the ability to have plenty, the Vaults of Plenty, which will trickle in 15 of each resource over 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, we will get 15 gold, 15 wood, and 15 food, which is so powerful. This also stacks. However, you do have to defend that vault as enemies can control it. We also get access to the Myth unit, which is the Colossus. This has a couple of different buffs to it, which doesn't include the Wonder, as well as the Wonder will also buff up your Myth units. The Colossus can become very, very powerful. It's a really cool looking Myth unit as well, and happens to be one of my favorites. And lastly, we do have Artemis. Now, she has access to Earthquake, which is just utterly devastating. If you've ever played this game for the very first time and been witness to Earthquake, you really are a case of what the hell is going on. I need to restart my entire game because it is city leveling. You also get access to a Myth unit, which is very good against soldiers. It is a melee Myth unit, however. I still prefer the Manticore, however, over this, but really what you're picking this for is Earthquake. It is just absolutely super powerful, possibly the most powerful spell power in the entire game. Now, as the Greeks, we do get villagers. Villagers cost 50 meat. You can have up to 100 of them. I would recommend doing so as quickly as possible. When it comes to the villagers, they are who's going to be building your houses, building your granaries, building your military buildings, and doing all that juicy gathering as well. You are actually going to need to create drop-off points, though. You're going to be needing to, make a mine or make a granary, so that way your villagers can drop off. I wouldn't just allow them to drop off into the town center. You really do need to make the shortest walk possible, so making drop-off sites is actually rather important as the Greeks. Something I do quite like as the Greeks, though, is that they do have individual unique heroes. Now, playing as the Greeks, you don't get a lot of heroes. In fact, you only get 4 heroes, but depending on who you play as, you get unique heroes to you, which I think is kind of cool. I think that makes it a little bit interesting. Now, a big question always in guide videos is, how do you generate favor? Now, obviously, you're going to need a temple, but the way it works as the Greeks is whenever you've created a temple, that created a temple will start worshipping there. And it's your villagers worshipping at your temple which will generate favor for you. So the more villagers you have, the more favor you will have coming in. This is both good and bad, as of course you're sacrificing villagers that should be out gathering in order to gather faith for you instead. Now, the Greeks are not the best race to turtle down with. They do have okay walls. It's certainly better than the Norse, but it's nowhere near as good as the Atlanteans. So keep that in mind when building your cities, or when thinking about your play style. Now, as the Greeks do also get access to Pegasus, which is a free scout unit. You can eventually make it so that way if it dies, it will always return to you. I think having it is really useful. I just use it for scouting, perhaps maybe, for revealing the fog of war, so that way you can use Earthquake. It's a really good play as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Sentinel is a god power that you can use from the get-go. The very first time you use it, it is free, and it essentially creates archer towers around your town center. You can move them as well. I believe it's actually 5. I mentioned earlier that it was 4 that it summons, but I think there, as you saw, that it's actually 5 archer towers that it creates. Now, they don't necessarily have that much in a way of health, but they do have a decent amount of attack. In fact, I think they have more attack than a standard age 2 archer tower. So keep that in mind. It really does stop that early rush. The AI or another player in multiplayer is going to find it rather difficult to, rush you very early in your game. Now, we also mentioned the Vault of Plenty. This is a fantastic building. As I said, it does trickle in 15 food, wood, and gold every 5 seconds, and this does stack. So if you have 5 of these, for instance, then you're going to be getting 5 lots of those 15 every 5 seconds. It's absolutely fantastic, but remember that these can be taken, so you do have to defend them and make sure the enemy does not capture them. Now, the Underworld passage, in my opinion, is actually really good. It's not as good as the Sky passage that the Atlanteans have, but this is an instant from A to B. It does have a life. It can get attacked and destroyed, but it will essentially stay there while you can use it while it's not being destroyed. And as you've seen, my Minotaurs just instantly went from point A to point B. Very useful. Now, I don't tend to talk about Curse too much. However, the more I have used it, the more I have enjoyed it. I do find that it is better to be used as a defense move. But if you are attacking someone and you have a large army, you have an area of effect, and you will turn several of their units into pigs. You have no say over which units get turned, however, so it's kind of pot luck. However, I personally really like Cursed. And then, of course, we have my favorite unit that the Greeks have, the Colossus. Leveling this up, grabbing Wonder, it's really cool to have, a walking tank. These things do immense damage to buildings, to troops. And now, while they have less population cost if you're playing as Zeus, they're still very worthwhile as Hades, as your myth units have an increased hit points as him, which makes the Colossus even chunkier. Now, the last thing we should mention, of course, or at least show, is going to be Earthquake. This is a devastating power, and it really, really is hard to counter, because if you cut an AI, if you get a player that has his buildings close together, you're going to just absolutely level his city. It's really hard to counter. In my opinion, probably needs nerfing, and you really do have to watch out for Greek players with this. There we have it, guys. That is my guide to Hades. Let me know down in the comments if I missed anything out. Maybe you prefer a build or a unit over something like I said. I'd be really interested to know how you guys play. We also have an active and growing Discord. You can find the link for that down in the description of the video. It'd be great to get more people from the community in the Discord so we can get more multiplayer games up and running. We would like to be running tournaments eventually as well. But until next time, I've been a monk, you've been a Critically Curious, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.